Now then, guys, welcome back to the Cycle Sunday podcast. It's just me and thee this evening, my friend.
It's just us two.
I know we've had guests the last few weeks with Natalie and Rosie. It's quite weird, just me and you.
I know.
Have we done something to upset them?
No, they're just, it's just been an absolutely ballistic week. And Rosie, at this moment in time, she is on site, but
Yes.
she's actually going through orders at this moment, absolutely making sure that customer orders are being updated on the system. And Natalie, to be honest with you, she's been working her proverbial off as well.
Yes.
So it is the stewards at home this evening.
Good. Okay,
So it's us two. It's the dream team.
The dream team, my friend. The dream team. And we got quite a few. I think a really interesting subject tonight that I don't think we need to shed some light on.
Oh, do you know? Do you know that is absolutely amazing? Have you been thinking about that all day?
I have actually, yes. But before
you are
we
definitely
do that,
very bright.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I'm in my element.
Oh dear.
Anyway,
we're gonna have to charge for this.
Stop it. People will leave the podcast.
Oh,
so
yes.
Before we get stuck into the main subject matter of the podcast ce soir, you'll be dead proud of me because I went to book my Vengine for a service today because it hasn't been looked at for a while, even though we hark on about having your bike checked every 6 months. For COVID and lots of other reasons. But I was in my bike shop just trying to get some gas canisters actually, because I've ran out.
Right.
And I said, when are you booking ahead for basic bike servicing? And a bit like you guys, it was like, early part of next month.
Yeah.
That's fine, but I'm pretty sure my bike's going to need a new chain.
Yeah.
And therefore probably a new cassette. So before I booked my bike in, have you got any?
Yes.
He was like, he said, what kind have you got? I said, well, I've run a DIT Ultegra, and I've got an 11 to 28 11-speed cassette on the back. And he went, let me go and have a look. And guess what? For those watching, he had one. So he had a chain and only like a couple of cassettes. And he said, right, I've got one. I went, brilliant. Can you put it to one side for me? And he said, believe me, he said, the best thing you can do is buy it now, take it home so it's not in the bike shop. And then when you bring your bike back to drop it in for service, bring them back. So that's what I've done.
Genuine, how sensible is that? Really, really sensible.
I know.
So no, brilliant.
So I think that, and then he said, what do you want to do? I said, well, it's running all right. It's just, I know it needs a new chain. And the last time I went out on a big ride, we did 50 miles and it was just making a few little noises and it just needs some TLC, but I think it'll be okay. And he went, yeah, when people say that normally means it's absolutely pants and is basically half falling apart.
If a bike shop guy had £1 for every time when somebody brought it or booked a bike in for a service, they go, the moment somebody says it won't need much doing to it, we basically clear the day.
Because I'm dropping in on a Tuesday, and I said, oh, will you get, what do you want to leave it with you, and will you get it done Tuesday? He said, well, we'll probably assess it Tuesday, and then we'll see what needs to happen. But he said the most important bit, you've got your chain and you've got your cassette, and everything else, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, the other bits that might come up on a service, bearings and those types of things, will be a little bit easier to get your hands on.
When was the last time it had cables?
Right,
it'll need cables.
Yeah.
The moment somebody says for that amount of time.
Well, it has got Di2, so it will just need brake cables, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Brake. I think it will probably need brake blocks and brake cables.
Yes.
So
yeah, and bar tape.
Bar tape's not too bad, but
can't rewrap
cables off.
Can't rewrap bar tape.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
So I might get some funky bar tape.
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's my little bit of money going ahead. And then while we're talking about components,
yes,
you sent me a very, very excited or picture of a very excited Natalie today holding
Yes,
up a box from Campagnolo.
indeed. Are you going to put that on Instagram? Because she has given permission.
Oh, excellent, good, excellent. She was
Yes.
looking a bit special, but of course I will put it on Instagram.
She
Yes,
might be in
so
for a couple of hours tomorrow, so if you want that retaking, that'll be fine. With more of a cheesy grin than a completely surprised grin.
yeah.
But yeah, so
Was that a rear mech
that was a
by
rear
the size of
derailleur.
the box?
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah. So we now need front derailleur,
yeah.
chain.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
The
don't.
two little bolts that hold on the rear derailleur that won't come.
No, it's the two little bolts to bolt the rear caliper on.
Mm. Yeah,
But other
yeah.
than that, we've got everything. Mm,
Very exciting.
yeah.
Very exciting. We're getting there. We're getting there, people.
Yes.
But anyway, so one of the things I thought we'd chat about today, because I don't think we've mentioned a little bit about riding in groups and safety of riding in groups, but I've seen a couple of posts. There's a company, and I can't remember the name of them, and it's not a shout out to them at all. They do like almost like the cycle equivalent of a dash cam that you can ride, and they've got these videos of people riding in groups being overtaken by cars too closely and so on. And it just triggered me to think about maybe we should have a chat about the a couple of things. How best to stay safe on the road.
Yeah.
In terms of just general awareness, I think, and a lot of that is probably closely aligned with how you drive safely on the road, and that's just really good observation and being aware of what's around you, and if you're in a group, communicating with the people around you. But then also just about being seen, I think. And be that to do with the type of clothing you wear, or whether or not you ride with lights. And then I think there's a big conversation to have with lights, because like all of these things, I'm pretty sure once I tap into your encyclopedic knowledge of lights, we'll go a long way from the little ever-ready ones that were on the front of my grifter to the, multi-100-pound lights that you can buy with billions of lumens and that kind of thing. So,
and I think the other thing that we also need to put out there, I also want to have a talk about people's attitudes as well on bikes, and because every car driver blames cyclists and every cyclist blames car drivers. And I'd like to touch on that because I'm going to get a bit controversial and a bit energized over it.
That's unlike you, mate.
Nope.
So let's do the riding thing first then. I mean, there's a couple of things. If you're riding, and I'm going to try and look at this from both a cyclist perspective and a car's perspective. So if you're riding on your own, first thing, and I guess this is aimed at more, if you like, the audience that would be predominantly car driving audience. If you're riding a road bike, it's probably less of a problem if you're on a hybrid or a mountain bike. If you're riding a road bike, if you go over something as small as a pothole or some kind of ironwork on the road, that can be quite dramatic impacting you on a bike. So, generally speaking, that means you want to ride out from the curb, so you're not in the gutter. You're not kind of be going over because the ironwork often is quite close into the gutter. So for me, when I'm riding, I'm normally a good foot away from the gutter, and I'm looking out for imperfections in the road. And on our roads in the UK, that means potholes. Because if you're doing, I don't know, 20, 30 miles an hour on a road bike and you hit a pothole, then the chance of a puncture is quite high.
No, that's game over. I think, Peter, I think we need to sort of really give motorists a real perspective here. A pothole can be you are thrown off the bike. What we are trying to avoid is actually poor road surface, right? So when you as a motorist in a low-profile tired car drive on a poor road surface, you feel that thrum coming through the chassis and the steering wheel. Now, think about a cyclist who's on a 25 millimeter wide tyre with the best part of 90 to 100 psi of pressure in the tyre, and it feels as though you are, you know what it's like. I mean, your eye sockets are your eyeballs are nearly rattled out of your eye sockets. So when you as a motorist start to feel the road surface through the suspension, the tyre, the chassis and the handle and the steering wheel, and you see a cyclist just trying to search out some respite from that, please bear in mind that it is absolutely brutal. It is brutal to be on. Is that fair to say?
No, it is fair, and I think and I just think because I think sometimes as a car driver you might see a cyclist weaving around a little bit and think, what are they up to? And normally it's just to try and avoid rubbish in the road, because you said worst case is going to throw you off your bike. Best case, if you see one and manage to kind of bunny hop or just get over it, that's fine. But that adds instability to you on the bike. If you're in a group of riders, I know we've talked about this before, and the first person sees it and the people behind don't, then that can be quite nasty as well. So I just think that's a worthwhile. And then the other thing for me is it's not just the imperfections; it's things like glass and other types of contaminants on the road. You ride over a broken glass or a broken bottle on the road bike, and you're going to have a puncture. And if you're going quickly, if that's a rapid deflation, that could be quite nasty. So I think it's just a case of, for car drivers, be aware that cyclists are constantly looking out for imperfections in the road.
And then
on the other hand, when you think about a car, the cars from the perspective of the cyclists, I think it just needs to be an understanding that you're probably holding them up in terms of speed, and that can get very, very annoying very quickly. And I know you can't necessarily do anything about it, but I do sometimes understand the frustration that car drivers get, because I sometimes feel it myself, even though I'm a cyclist. So if you've got an opportunity to, see around the corner and wave a car through because it's safe to do so, then I think you should feel free to do that. If it's a case of being able to kind of pull over to one side, if there's a big group of you or a big group of cars behind, it's not the end of the day if you pull over and stop and let some cars go by. Really?
Totally agree.
It might affect your Strava time a bit, but it's not really going to, I think it's just a case of being thoughtful more than anything.
So I think you've got to, in a bike shop, we tend to be forums for cyclists and car drivers. So we get motorists coming in saying, oh, cyclists are the sort of spawn of the devil. And we get cyclists coming in saying, oh, I nearly got taken off my bike today because of these erratic, angry car drivers who have got no patience. And the thing I always like to point out is that when I put my car away in the garage at night with my bikes and shut the door and go into the house and go to bed and wake up in the morning to take my car out of the garage again, has there been a fight? No. The car and the bicycle lives in perfect harmony together as two independent machines. The only time when those two machines fall out is when you introduce something, and that is human beings.
Right? Idiots normally.
Well, just human beings. So it's not a case of motorists versus cyclists or cyclists versus motorists. This is purely people. And people need to work together. And if people work together, guess what? We have a little bit more harmony. Crikey, we're getting deep tonight. So just the other night, I was riding home on Rosie's hybrid bike because she'd nicked the van. So I took Rosie's hybrid home, and it got to a point as I was riding up the main road where I could sense that a car was on my back, and he was keeping a nice distance, not trying to hurry through. But there was also a traffic island in the middle of the road, so I knew that for probably about a minute, there is no way that that driver would be able to get past me. But I was about 5 seconds away from a bus stop, so an off-the-road bus stop, that didn't have a bus in it. So what did I do? I went into the bus stop. I kept my absolute same speed as I would have been doing in the road. The driver saw me do that, drove past, gave me a wave, and I then checked over my shoulder, rejoined the carriageway. That was cyclist kept safe, motorist not frustrated. It's working together, people.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think that most of the time that's all it needs. I guess there's other things. I know in cities the thing that frustrates the motorists the most is when cyclists ignore things like red lights and jump on pavements and things. And I don't condone that at all. At the end of the day, you go on the road and you are a motor vehicle, and the one, and I've only ever had to shout it at somebody once. Someone had to go at me because I was on the road and I don't pay road tax. And I helpfully informed the driver of the car that he didn't pay road tax either. He paid road fund license, which is based on your CO2 emissions. And I was a zero emissions vehicle and therefore paid no road fund license.
Yeah.
Which is
yes.
true.
Yeah. It's absolutely true. Yeah.
So I think that there is a bit of that, and I think when you're in a group, the biggest thing is just, and it's observation, like you said, the big danger points, the pinch points for any cyclist, whether they're on their own or in a group, is parked cars on the side of the road, and just for a car driver, again, it's probably useful to know as a cyclist, I will always give a parked car a door's width worth of room.
Indeed.
Because otherwise you can go past it and someone doesn't see you and opens the door. That is basically just a nightmare.
Do you know what people are taught in Holland when they're learning to drive?
They do the thing out. They open the door with their left hand.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So they always
or in Holland it would be with the
right hand.
But
if you're basically the opposite hand to the side of the door. They are taught to basically open the handle of the inside of the door using the opposite hand. That ensures that they're looking over the shoulder when they pull the handle. I think that is such a simple and brilliant thing.
I know. Do that. Let's do that. Let's start a campaign. Open the door with your left hand, people. But it's just that. But I'm lucky. I've never, touched wood, I've never had an incident like that. But parked cars. The one you mentioned, the island, the in the middle of the road, because drivers tend to, they think that if they're getting impatient, they might go past, and then you end up kind of cutting across, and you can have that pinch point, and then obviously any kind of junction is dodgy. And I suppose the biggest danger for any cyclist is left-hand turns and big long vehicles. But I'm hoping that the cyclists that are listening to us just know, do not go down the inside of a long vehicle.
Yeah. Yes.
Full stop. As you would say, the end.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So anyway, and then if you're in a group, if you'll always have a car up or car back kind of, so people know that bikes and cars are there. So I think it's just that being aware and stuff and just trying to get on. But the other thing where you can kind of help out, I think, certainly the cars, is just making sure that cars see you. And I guess the two things for me that just do my head in, one more than the other, actually. Well, actually, there's three. I'm going to rant now. Number one, saw it 3 times today. Cyclists with no helmet on. I think we've done that before. Do not understand it. I'm afraid. I know that there are for and against arguments for helmets. But I'm sorry, I just don't get I don't know how anybody. What's the harm in wearing a cycle helmet? So wear a helmet, people. And as I've said on a podcast before, I know enough people have had nasty accidents and literally had their helmet come back in pieces. So, but the other one that does my head in is people who wear dark, almost black colours on a bike.
That is me.
Yeah, well, I know I've got a nice big black set of Castelli stuff as well.
But
But it has got reflective bits on it.
But I'm also going to touch on why as well in a second. But yeah, your third one.
Lights.
Right. And that's actually the point for my black clothing, which we'll go on to.
Yeah. Yeah. Ah, that's interesting. Now, okay. So I guess, we've done the helmet one. In fact, and I think in a previous podcast we talked about, things like the kind of replacement guarantees and stuff that a lot of the helmet manufacturers have. And I just think it's. And the other thing is, if you've got a helmet and you drop it, or you do have an off, just change it. They're not designed to be dropped more than once.
No.
But yeah, but no, just so okay. So let's talk clothing and because I know you can get some proper layering, those jackets that look like you're wearing basically a massive reflector. They always amaze me, but they are incredible things. I don't think I haven't got one, but for as a commuter, they are fantastic.
They are. The only thing that I would say about any cycle clothing is always remember that. And this is not from me. This is from the good cycling clothing manufacturers. That good quality lycra cannot be printed on. Okay, so when you see any clothing that isn't just a single color with a tiny little logo just screen printed onto it, it tends to be actually very inexpensive, poor quality lycra that tends to be used for that.
I didn't know that.
So that's why you see, companies like ASOS, Gore, Rafa, all of these, Castelli, all of these top-end manufacturers, you'll find that they are in just single colours, and they tend to be colours that don't have to be dyed that much, and it's because they're using really, really good quality lycra for that. So it's not a minimalist thing. It's just because you can't screen print good quality lycra. So that's number one. But number two, I don't know about you, Peter. Tragically, we do cycle Sunday and we cycle, but we've actually not done a ton of riding together.
I rephrase the word ton. We've never ridden together.
So it's quite ironic, really.
I know. I don't know how. I don't know whether I'll be able to keep up with you. To be honest.
Yeah. At the moment, you've probably done more miles in last week than I've done this year. But that said, I think the key thing is that I sweat at the thought of doing exercise. Right. So when I'm on a bike, seriously, I am draining the brow pad of my helmet, and I push it against my head, and it's like having a waterfall coming out the front. It's minging. That's how much I sweat when I'm on a bike. So the thought of wearing a waterproof jacket that's fully reflective and made of glass, effectively, that's effectively what the reflective is on these really bright. They look fantastic when a car hits these reflective jackets. But seriously, it would be that rice that you get in a bag and you stick it in the microwave, and in 2 minutes later it's basically steamed and boiled. So that would be my innards.
That would be
inside one of those jackets. So I couldn't wear anything that like that. So everything has to be really breathable and really good quality for me not to overheat and get uncomfortable. So there's always that balance. But when it comes to dark clothing, one of the reasons why I wear quite a lot of dark clothing is because similar to your, for me, correct rant about not wearing a helmet, there is no excuse to. Likewise, in broad daylight or at night time, I do not leave the house and ride a bike without either daytime or night running lights on the bike without fail. And one of the good things about wearing dark clothing is that that is then a good backdrop to your lights. Okay?
Okay.
So, and then if you really want to be seen the best, you wear dark jersey and shorts. You have your daytime, nighttime lights on the bike always on. And then anything that has motion, so your sock and your shoe, you have those in a bright color. Because as your legs are basically spinning round, those bright, sort of almost iridescent colors are then, they're almost like having a flashing light on. They're much easier for people to see.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. If you see somebody wearing dark clothing but they've got the flashy lights on, don't say, "Oh, why haven't they also got a yellow or a red or a colourful jacket on?" Because frankly, if you've seen them, and that's all that matters.
Cool. Okay. Every day's school day with you, Mr. Bowker.
It's just pointing out the different arguments, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's do lights then, because I'm guessing, and there's a couple of things. I always ride with a rear light on. It just attaches to my saddlebag, or if I'm riding my either the mountain bike or the Arcadex, it goes on I normally wear like a little backpack with a camelback in it, and it clips onto that. But I don't often ride with the front light on the road during the day. But I think, what would it be useful to kind of talk road lights, and then road lights you would use either during the day or kind of at nighttime. But then there's the whole off-road nighttime mountain biking lights, the ones that basically like having a sun attached to the front of the bike,
or an imploding moon. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I've got one of those and they're cool. So for the light, so I guess the because they don't have to. I think sometimes maybe it's a case of people worry about that they cost lots of money. So but they don't have to cost lots of money to be. Any lights are good.
No,
is effective, right? But you want
no.
Oh,
no,
you see,
no.
this is great. Pay cheap.
No,
buy cheap, buy twice.
Just good quality lights are expensive, and the reason why good quality lights are expensive is because they have better quality batteries that last longer. And I don't mean just in terms of burn duration. I'm talking about physical charge cycles. So and that's your point really, is sort of buy cheap, buy twice. Is that a cheap battery cell only has so many charge cycles before it then won't take a charge anymore. The better quality cells will take more charge cycles. So that's number one. And then number two, as the light gets longer duration, then obviously that battery capacity is getting bigger and it's a more expensive battery. But then also, it's not just down to the quality of the LED itself, but it's also down to the quality of the lens manufacturer that sits behind the LED. So you can actually have a 4,000 lumen LED that looks like a 300 lumen LED because the quality of the lens that it's bouncing off actually doesn't give a particularly good projection. And you could then have a 1,500 lumen LED that basically lights up the world. And it's just because the quality of the lens that sits behind it. On top of that, you've also got the carcass of the light as well. So, you can have cheap plastics, you can have good quality plastics, you can have composites, but you can also have full CNC billet aluminium, which is also being a heat sink as well as being a good quality robust shell for the light. You've then got other electronic devices for the light as well. I mean, we'll touch on some very high-end product that we do, that has gyroscopes, accelerometers, air flow meters, and all of those sorts of things as well. So yeah, buying a good quality light at a not extortionate price, but if it looks cheap, it generally is, and you can. So I think, right, let's just go back to the basics here. So the two types of lights that exist are effectively lights to be seen and lights to see. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
So
Yeah.
if you are riding in broad daylight, just buy a pair of lights, a front and a rear light that is designed for daytime use to be seen. Okay? These tend to be quite small lights. Yep. And for example, and people of the podcast are just going to go, oh, he's talking about Bontrager again. But we do quite a lot of Bontrager lights, but we also do exposure as well, which is just the last word in light technology. They are amazing. UK manufacturer. Yeah. Everything is soldered and printed and manufactured in the UK, and they're just amazing. I can't remember for sure, but I think exposure lights have been the light that has won more 24-hour endurance events than any other light manufacturer out there. It's something crazy like that. So they're a fabulous bit of kit. So let's focus on the lights to be seen, first of all, that you'll put on your road bike, your hybrid bike, commuter bike. And a good quality pair of USB charging, so you'll never have to buy batteries again. Front and rear light will cost about 60 quid. Okay. So 30 quid a light. And
for something that's going to potentially save your life.
Yeah, potentially. And and those lights are kicking out enough power and enough projection of light that it will be able to be seen in broad daylight up to about 400 meters away. Okay, so not far off, half a kilometer away. And those lights are designed to use a very similar strobing pattern to the emergency services. So you basically get 4 bursts and 2 halos. So it's basically 2 long light emits followed by 4 really fast bursts. And it's what is classified as distractive technology. They are designed to distract somebody to actually seeing you. Because if you...
So this...
Yeah.
So let me just back the truck up a little bit. Then, because when we were kids, bike lights were on or off.
Yes.
But now you can have they can be on or off. Mm-hmm. But I guess the ones to be seen, that's where you get these lights that flash, right?
Correct.
And I mean, I used my rear light that I use, I have it as a flash. Yep. It's like a strobe almost.
Yes.
Because you're not using it to see out on the road, so you wouldn't use that at night time when it's dark, because that would freak you out. But
and well, no, you do use it at night and in a strobe setting. So these lights at 60 quid, the Bontrager Flare and Ion Cities, they even have a light dimmer on it, so an automatic dimmer. So what happens is that during daytime, it's at its brighter setting, so it will penetrate the general sunlight. And then at night time, it will automatically dim down so it doesn't blind the driver of the car. But you still have a strobing light simply and purely because it distracts people to see you. So starting from about 60 quid would be a good quality set of to be seen lights. Now, another thing, I did my motorcycle advanced test when a number of years ago, and one of the ex-police instructors, this was the best bit of advice that he has ever given me while riding in an urban environment or just riding on the road in general. And that is, when you are coming up to a junction and you're on the main road and you're carrying through, and there's a junction that's coming across either to your left or to your right, and you see a car that is going to either pull across your nose or join your carriageway, assume automatically that that person has not seen you and is going to pull out on you until you have got actual eye contact with that driver.
Yep.
And that was
it's the same in the Institute of Advanced Motorist Driving.
Is it exactly the same, is it? Right. And that was the best bit of advice. And almost you have a stare down competition. You almost drill your eyeballs into the side of there. And the amount of times that you gain that eye contact, and there is almost this, oh, I hadn't seen you. And you just think that person could have just pulled out on you at any time. So that was a really good bit of advice. So that's pretty much lights to be seen. And then we move on to lights then to see. And you're going to love this because this is now physics. And you love a bit of physics,
Excellent.
don't you?
Yeah, I can't say I did A-level physics, but I like it. I'm not. Sometimes it blows my mind, but yeah.
Okay. So when you're looking at buying a light that you want to see with, you've got to factor the speed that you are riding and the distance that you are covering and your reaction time to then choose what beam length you need from your light. So the amount of people who come in and say, oh, I only want to spend 50 quid on a front light, which appears to be a lot of money, but you spend 50 quid on a front light that, say, for example, has got at night a 5-meter beam length. But if you're then riding at 20 miles an hour on your road bike, usual reaction time for you is around 2 seconds, which is why the 2-second rule exists. So normal human reaction time is around 2 seconds from seeing an obstacle to actually doing anything about it. If you've got a light traveling 5 meters ahead of you in terms of its visible spread of light at 20 miles an hour with a 2-second reaction time, you will have already hit what you want to avoid before you actually react to it.
Yeah. I'd not thought of it that way.
And it's as simple as that. So if you are traveling at that speed and therefore you need at least 20 to 30 meters of light in front of you, and that light is 300 quid, then to ride at that speed at night safely, you need to spend £300. The end.
I love my favourite thing when you go, the end, because that's what it is. But and then I guess that especially, I mean, I now in the winter, Dan and I we really got into our going out at nighttime on the mountain bikes, because it's I don't think we've ever talked about this. Cycling at nighttime on a mountain bike in the middle of a forest or something is spiritual.
Yeah.
And that sounds really like, oh, why don't you light some joss sticks and everything? It really and truly is. And you can stop and you just hear nothing except an owl tweeting or the movement of some deer in the distance. It's just incredible. However, this is the big however, if you're going to do that, you need proper lights on the front of your bike. Otherwise, you're going to have a big off. Yeah.
Do you know what? When you said that, because I've not night ridden for probably around 2 years now, just because of lack of opportunity, and the hairs went up on the back of my neck the moment you said that it was sort of spiritual, because it just gave me a flashback of all the night rides that I've done over the years, and it's unbelievable. And have you ever ridden on the road at night?
No, well, apart from when we mountain bike, if we have to do a road movement between different bits of, we don't go out on the road bikes so much. No,
that again is
my
wonderful.
Serious producer from Vintage
Yes.
Voltage, he rides when we're filming in Wales. He rides every night after work, whether it's dark or not. He does like an hour or so. But yeah, I probably should give it a go. But the interesting thing, so I mean, well, I guess we'll talk on about the technology. But I've currently got quite a high power handlebar mounted light. But Dan's got one of those exposure lights that you stick on the top of your helmet. That's basically like having a small nuclear explosion on the top of your head. I mean, it is. So I need to buy one of those for next year because they're just incredible.
Well, we'll hook you up with that. So, as a rule of thumb, if you are riding on the road, just go handlebar mount. That's absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you are mountain biking, you need to buy a bar-mounted light and a helmet light if you've got the budget to do it. If you haven't got the budget, then it is spend as much as you can on the highest quality but lightweight helmet-mounted light. And I'll go through that. When you're riding on the road, very, very rarely does your handlebars actually turn more than around sort of 7 degrees in that region. And most road-biased front lights have got a much wider angle of view. They're also slightly deeper, and they don't go quite as far. So you can always see the verge with your road bias light. Mountain bike slightly different. Mountain bike tends to be a narrower band that's slightly taller and longer, because it doesn't really matter what you're seeing to the side of the trail, because normally you're just trying to pinpoint yourself down something that's no more than 1.5 meters wide anyway. So when you see manufacturers saying this is for the road and this is for a mountain bike, it's not marketing speak. It's what we spoke about right at the beginning, which is the lenses are designed for the type of road or trail that you're actually riding on. So that's important. But the other thing is, when you're mountain biking, you are looking around the corners more than you are more than your handlebars are turning. So it's really important that you actually, where you are looking round the corner, that your light goes with you. And that's why it's important to have a helmet mounted light, because the amount of times that I see bar mounted light riders, and basically where they want to see is pitch black, and where they don't need to see, which is where the handlebars are, is basically fully lit, and you don't need to see that. So don't forget, you're also engaging a turn. You're actually counter steering. So if you're shredding a berm, then actually the light is pointing in the opposite direction of the direction that you're turning in anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, I just do a wheelie and just turn the bars the way I want.
Is that what you do?
See the beam go?
Yeah.
Because I'm like really good on a mountain bike. Me. Counter steering. I'm just trying not to fall off and kill myself. So okay, yeah. So tell us, because we do like to geek out on the podcast. So because we've talked about this off, if you like, off camera before. About, I think I even asked you, look, I need to get some lights and or some off-road mountain bikes, and you were telling me about the exposure ones that have all of these different sensors on them and stuff. How complicated can a modern day bike light be, my friend? Because they're proper incredible, aren't they?
Yeah, they're absolutely fantastic thing. So Exposure have got certain lights that carry a number of technologies. Their rear light is absolutely incredible. They've got a light which is called the Tracer, and they have a system on board which is called React. And React has got an accelerometer built into it. So I have this on my road bikes, that the moment that you hit the brakes, and therefore there is a rapid deceleration, it will automatically change the light from its strobe mode onto 120 lumen solid brake light. And within a nanosecond of you coming off the brakes and then start to accelerate again, it then goes back to its strobe mode. So that's just the rear light technology.
And how much are they?
They're £1 million.
Okay, right, okay, because I need one of that. Sounds wicked.
Yeah, they're about 65 quid. And they've got a new system on board, which is called Peloton mode, which if you're riding in a group of riders at night and everybody else has got their lights on, it will actually sense that somebody is behind you with their light on and actually start to dim the light down slightly so it doesn't blind the rider in front. Yeah, so there's the technology is absolutely incredible. That's just the backlight, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The front lights go even more mental. So helmet lights, they do certain ranges of lights which have got what's called tap technology. And what tap technology is, how many times when you're on a climb do you hit the button to reduce the lumens to increase your battery capacity, because you don't need to see as far when you're climbing. But then the moment that you then go into a descent, you're then scrabbling around to find the button, usually because you've got heavy gloves on because you're riding at night and therefore it's colder. So you physically can't change the light mode fast enough before you go into the descent. What Exposure have done is what's called tap technology. So you just literally tap the light and it will change the mode. So that you have the button there as well, but the tap technology, when that's enabled, is brilliant. And before anybody asks, no, if you're doing a gnarly descent, it won't automatically, as you're sort of bobbling around all over the place, it won't then change modes halfway through. You have to physically hit the light, so it won't do it through normal terrain riding. Yeah. So that's the tap technology. But then the bar-mounted lights, when you get really high end, have got a number of different measuring devices. One of which is a gyroscope, so it's actually getting the attitude of the bike itself as you are climbing or descending. The second is that they've got accelerometers built on. And then the third one is that they actually have the piezo's fitted into the front of the light, which are the Air Flowmeters. And I'll never, ever forget, and forevermore will it be referred to this. We had a young lad start with us, a lad called Cammy, lovely, lovely lad. And he's no longer with us, but absolutely great guy. And he read this and he said, "What is an Air Flowmeter?" I said, "Cammy, you'll actually find that Air Flowmeter is an airflow meter."
Brilliant. They got a pitot tube on the front of a bike lamp.
Correct. So they're actually not like an aeroplane. So it's not like sticking out to get broken off. They're actually inbuilt into the can itself. But yeah, the moment that you go onto a climb, basically the gyroscope, the airflow meter, and the accelerometer all together is basically saying this bike is going uphill. The speed of wind that is passing across the front of the light has slowed, and the accelerometer is saying that we've reduced speed, so it automatically dims the light down to a climb mode. Without you touching anything, it will automatically dim it down to perfectly bright enough to do an 8-12 kilometer climb. The moment the world goes south, and all three systems basically say, right, we're now going fast, we've now started going downhill, and we've accelerated rapidly, it will basically go duff, and the light will just basically give it everything that it's got. And this happens before you could get to the button on the back to change it yourself. It is so fast.
And nocturnal animals go to sleep because they think the sun's come up.
Well, yeah. Well, they run and they get very scared.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
So how much are they?
£1 million.
£1 million.
Yeah. No, I mean 300-400 quid. Which when people, you mention that kind of money for a light, and you go, that's utterly ridiculous. How could you do that? Well, how much is a set of HID lights on the front of a rally car?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, thousands.
Yeah.
But again, it's down to speed, distance, and time. So if you've got a rally car doing 100 miles an hour down a Welsh, back road on a rally stage, then with a 2-second reaction time going that speed, they need to see, 80 to 100 meters down the road. Therefore, their lights cost $3,000, right?
Yeah.
But if you're doing 40K down
Yeah.
a red route at night, you're doing the Glentress red route at night, which is epic, by the way. We've got to do it. I want to see 40 to 50 meters in front of me, and I want pure, unadulterated light. I don't want shadows over roots. I don't want shadows over rocks. I want everything filled in with bright white light. None of this yellow halogen rubbish that basically you just can't see through fog and mist and that sort of stuff. I want pure bright white light from a good quality LED. And I want a good quality battery to be able to withstand the 1.5 to 2 hours of duration that I need with that amount of power. And for that, it's 400 quid.
Yeah. And hey, look, I'm going to make an admission here to my lovely Cycle Sunday listeners and peddlers. So when I bought my current light that I use when I go out down a mountain biking at night time, I did speak to Paul and said, Paul, what should I buy? And you went, you want to buy these lights? They're from this company called Exposure. Okay. And I went into my local bike shop because I didn't fancy driving all the way to Edinburgh. And they did do Exposure lights. And I'm like, how much?
Yeah.
And I bought a light for the front of my bike that was about half the price of an Exposure light. It was still 200 and something quid. It was still a lot of money.
It would be a good light.
However, Dan's got an Exposure light. And do you know what? I really wish I'd spent the extra 100 quid.
That's interesting.
It's good. It's good. It's got different modes, and you have to touch the top of the light to turn it on. So you can have a light, a less lit when you're climbing, and when you want to go downhill, have it on full whack. And I don't go out long enough to get to the, if you like, the range of the battery charge. That's never become a problem. But you just think, So if you spend a bit less, it might make you feel better the day you go in the bike shop and spend your money. But the first time you go down a really fast descent at 25, 30 miles an hour at night, and it'll be the same at Glentress. Round here on the South Downs at night time, it is black as you like. It is dark because there's no ambient light at all. So you need every ounce of lumens that you can get. And at that point, you'll go, damn, I really do wish. Because you're on, and this is the bit we probably should think, you're probably sat on several thousand quid's worth of mountain bike. And you are a squishy organic thing that if you fell off, probably couldn't go to work the next day. So it's actually, when you put it in that kind of context, spend your money.
Yeah, it does make a difference. And don't forget, everybody, you don't have to travel to Edinburgh. If you go onto www.criteriumcycles.co.uk, you'll be able to see our entire light range and have it personally picked and packed and sent to your door.
I didn't know you were doing e-commerce again. But yeah, no. So I again, another fascinating subject of, to the uneducated, that's the wrong word, to the uninitiated, you would just think lights are lights. They're they'll get stronger and maybe waterproof and shock resistant and stuff. But fascinating. So for me now, I need that the rear light that turns into a brake light. That sounds like genius.
Oh, they're brilliant.
I need one of those.
Yeah.
I need one of those in my
Yeah.
life. And then I guess the last thing would be e-bikes come with lights, but they are, if you, depending on what you want to do, you probably maybe want to consider some secondary lights on top of those. I would
Yeah,
guess.
the vast majority of lights fitted onto e-bikes, and Tracy's got the Trek Sport Powerfly, and that's got a set of lights front and rear, and they're absolutely brilliant for a nighttime cycle path or canal trip, or they're okay in the day on a cycle path or cycle track, but you're 100% correct. If you're doing some long road riding or you're doing proper mountain biking, then you would want better quality lights. And the other thing that exposure does as well, and it is a big job, so don't underestimate this, in terms of if a bike shop's on your new e-bike, we now do exposure lights that can be hardwired into the engine.
That was my next question.
Okay, right. So Bosch engines have got a plug port for lights, of which we can run a full internal system that then is powered from your bike battery. Mm-hmm. It is a big job. It can be an engine out job to run the internal cables, to plug it in, to then do all of your wiring and get it all set up. We then have to plug it into the diagnostic system and set up the Bosch firmware for the amount of amps that the voltage of the light, and also the amps that light is going to require, so it doesn't knacker the whole system. But yeah, all of that can be done as well, and we're starting to do more of that now.
Yeah, cool.
It's exciting.
I think, I mean, for me, I think the biggest challenge will probably be, last question, because we're running out of time, is can you buy secondary and tertiary mounts for the lights? Because I've got multiple bikes, and I don't want to be swapping the mounts over each time I go out on a different bike, and I don't want to have to buy 3 or 4 sets of lights. So I'm guessing, and I guess that depends on the vendor of the lights.
So when it comes to, let's say, Bontrager, when you're buying Bontrager lights, they then do various mounts. So obviously the lights come with a mount, but you're 100% correct. You can buy secondary and tertiary mounts for it. But also, if you've got a Trek bike with Bontrager lights, then a lot of those work on what we call the blender system, which is the Trek integration of all their parts, cycle computers, lights, and all those sorts of things. But Exposure does a ton of different light options and bracket options to work on so many different designs. So they do rear light brackets for, so the Trek Demane Mark III has got a flat back to its seat post rather than a round seat post at the back. So they even do a flat back adapter. They do an under saddle adapter. They do an aero bike adapter for both front into. So on your Ultra, for example, Peter, you've got a full aero bar. Well, you can get an Exposure light that even works with that full aero bar as well. So the accessory options with Exposure, they really, you know, when you've got a manufacturer who you go, those guys actually ride the bikes that they're selling lights for. As opposed to, oh, well, we do a round handlebar for 26.4 millimeter, 31.8 millimeter, and 35 millimeter bars. What more do you want? No, they do everything.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, mate, it's been enlightening talking about lights.
Brilliant.
And I know, really, really good. And you know, I like I said, you know, right back at the beginning of this project, we said there's so much to talk about in cycling, and so much misinformation or misunderstanding or stuff that people could pick up quite easily with just a non-biased view. And that's what I hope that people realize we bring. Yes, you own a bike shop, yes you are you're obviously going to want people to buy stuff, but I don't think the way we talk about things, I don't think there's no pressure or you must buy X, Y, and Z manufacturer. We just want people to make the right decisions for them. And we've said that all the way along from choosing the right size frame to the right kind of bike for your riding to the accessories that go on it. So
I'll definitely second that. We've had wonderful listeners coming to buy stuff from us. We've got some really great friends who are listeners and customers of the shop. But ultimately, if you tune in every week, all we want you to hear is, right, Paul's got 30 years of cycling experience in all different types of disciplines and wants to talk from not only an industry standpoint, but also a personal experience standpoint. And similar with Pete, a lot of years of riding bikes, a lot of experience, and also, you're 100% correct. We just want people to go, oh, flip, that makes sense. Oh, that's really helpful. And then we've done our job.
Yeah. And if people ride with lights on and ride with a helmet on from now on,
correct,
we've done our job. But on that bombshell, it's an hour. It's flown by, my friend. So you can now go and help Rosie sort out all of those bike orders, and I'll get editing.
Yes. Perfect.
And I shall see you next week. I'm sure we will talk before. But guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you have found it interesting. Certainly a subject I've learned an awful lot on in the last hour. But it comes that time once again where I say, I've been Pete Green.
I've been Paul Bowker.
That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. You ride safe.
Ride safe.